Hey everybody, it's the LB Poker Coach again. Glad to be with you. Hope you're doing well. Please click on like or subscribe in the listener that you're in right now. It really helps me grow, helps the channel. So thanks a lot. All right, part two in our quest to find the all-time, all-around best poker player. So this is part two. In part one, I laid out the criteria. If I missed something in that criteria, let me know. Send me a message. I'm on Twitter at LVPokerCoach, all one word. Or you can also email me, coach@lvpokercoach.com. So let's quickly review that criteria. One, I'm gender neutral. I don't think there should be separate categories for best male, female. I think poker is a fair game, and I think that there's been some tremendous female players throughout the years. So I'm gender neutral to whether the all-time best player is male or female. Has to have an online and a live winning record. I know. It eliminates a lot of people. But online poker is definitely a part of the current poker sphere. So you have to understand that an all-around player is going to also have a good online record. They have to have won at least one bracelet. And again, that's really more of like a minimum entry fee for consideration, right? I think most players that you would think about already have a bracelet. And they also have to have a decent record in mixed games, or at least not be a no limit hold'em specialist. So let's see, kind of where that criteria sits with you. Let me know if I missed anything. And again, that's my criteria. I understand that some parts of my criteria are going to be very, very strict. I know some people don't care about mixed games. So mixed games may not be important to you, but it is in my list. So that's where I'm at. And yeah, so let's look at some of the names that I'd associate with some of the best players, best player all around. Now, keep in mind that, it is a subjective list, but let me know if you agree with it or not, or who you'd add. Or if I forgot somebody that fits all the criteria, I'd like to know that too, because I think I hit everybody, but let me know. So let's talk about the biggest misses. The biggest misses absolutely, have really no opportunity to be on this list would be the old timers. So in the old timers, I'm putting in, it's a long list, but I'm putting in people like Doyle Brunson, Scotty Nguyen, Mike Mattisau, Eric Seidel, folks like that. Those guys never really had a solid opportunity to be part of the online world, right? The online came much later in their careers, or in the case of some of the younger guys like Scotty and Mike, they just never really moved into it online. They just prefer to play live, and that's fine. Not everybody is a good online player. Online is a different dynamic. I am personally only a break-even player online. So yeah, if we're going to stick to the list and say you have to have a live and an online record, then unfortunately all those old timers are out of there. So even, the great Johnny Moss, Amarillo Slim, who wrote a fantastic book, they would be immediately disallowed from consideration. Another big miss, as we talked last time, is Phil Hellmuth, right? Phil Hellmuth never really had a very strong online presence. So he basically misses all the criteria except for that one. He has a bracelet. He's done well in mixed games. I think he has mixed game bracelets, if I remember right. But he just doesn't have any sort of real presence online as far as a player goes. Another big miss is somebody like Justin Bonomo, right? He's constantly at the top of the all-time tournament cash winners. Also, you could put Bryn Kenny into this category, but Justin Bonomo really has no mixed games experience to speak of. Same for Bryn Kenny. Justin Bonomo in the past has had some suspicion of multi-accounting. We can't forget that, some of these folks do have a history for some of the stuff they have done online, and Justin Bonomo did have some of those allegations a few years back. And, we also talked about maybe a criteria of being a good ambassador for poker. Is that Justin Bonomo? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure if he puts out the best persona to represent the poker world, right? So I think that those are basically some of the biggest misses from this list. Just they wouldn't even go into consideration if you stand by this criteria. Okay, so now let's talk about the honorable mentions. Honorable mentions is somebody like Ike Hexton. Is he a mixed games guy? I don't know. I don't think he is. So without that mixed games, badge for him to point to, I think it's really hard to say that he's the best all-around poker player. If we were to say for best all-around no limit hold'em players, then you can certainly meet all the criteria because he does have an online presence, he does have a live, he has won bracelet, so on and so forth. But you gotta have that mixed games element in there. Another name that comes to mind in the honorable mentions is Shaun Deeb. Everything I read about Shaun Deeb is very positive. I think he's a great guy. He's a working poker professional that also has a family. He lives away from Vegas. I think the challenge with Shaun Deeb is that he doesn't have as a prolific online resume as other players might. Now, I know that Shaun Deeb, does have an online history. It's not that he hasn't played, but I don't think we've seen like that big significant side from him. He's mostly a he's mostly a live games player. Some people would say that he's also highly focused on the WSOP, and that's okay. There's worse series to focus on. But I think that he would be lacking some of those online credentials to be looked at for the best of all time. He's certainly mixed game, certainly no limit hold'em, but I'd like to see a little bit more online from him. Next on the honorable mentions would be somebody like Phil Galfond. Also seems to be one of the good guys in poker. Everything I read about him is also very positive. The trick with Phil Galfond, because I think you can make an argument that he straddles the line here, that he could go from the honorable mentions to the consideration. It's not that he doesn't know no limit hold'em. It's that he really hasn't had like a statement win for no limit hold'em. I haven't seen just that real definitive statement win or bracelet or play from him to say, hey, he's not just a Omaha guy, he's also pretty dangerous at no limit. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure he's much better than me at no limit, better than most people. But I'd like to see a little bit more of a statement win from him in order to put him into that all-time consideration. And then finally, you have folks like the Mizrahi brothers, who I also spoke about in part one. Great players. I think that winning the Poker Players Championship trophy is an important requirement for being named the best of all time. They have done that. They have obviously a long history of live play. What they don't have really is an online presence. You don't really hear a lot about their online play in a significant way. So that's where I think I'd have to exclude them. But obviously they are two players that I have a lot of respect for, really. They obviously know how to play poker. Some incredible wins, and the PBC trophy is not something that's just easy to win. So the fact that they have done that on multiple occasions, I think, speaks volumes. Okay, so let's talk about the people who I would say you have to put on the immediate ballot for the all-time best all-around poker player. Now again, I'm just putting them on the ballot here, okay? I'm not telling you that your favorite poker player sucks. I'm not telling you that these guys are the best, and I'm not even telling you I'm fans of these guys. Some of these guys I'm not even fans of, right? But I'm just being honest. I'm just sticking to my criteria, okay? So first name that pops out, and I think the strongest name that pops out, would be Jungle Man, Dan Cates. If you look at my criteria, he fits all of my criteria. He has bracelets. He has Scoop. He has WCoop wins. Plays on streams. Consistent throughout really all time, right? I mean, maybe he's not an old timer, but he certainly didn't start last year. You know, he's been around a while. And he's also won the Poker Players Championship. You know, I keep on talking about that trophy. But yeah, you know, he fits all of the criteria that I put on there. He even fits some of the Ambassador of Poker criteria that I kind of informally throw around some of these players. You know, he's a little wild. He dresses up for the tournaments, dresses up for the streams. You know, has very entertaining social media and all that. But that's okay. You know, you're supposed to be a little bit of a personality in poker. Nobody gets nicety awards in poker. So, you know, I'm not saying that I'm a huge fan of his because, you know, I only watch him occasionally. But if you look at his accomplishments, you look at the criteria, he fits all of that. So I think that he would be a strong first ballot candidate for the all-around best poker player. Next name on the list would be Negreanu. Obviously fits all of this criteria. I think that he probably makes the strongest case in terms of longevity because he is one of only 2 names on my list. I have 4 names on my list, by the way. But he's only one of 2 names that can point to a solid pre-online record, right? D-Negs was, you know, pre-online, pre-moneymaker, pre-all of that. He's written about this, how he used to, you know, he turned professional very young. He used to play every single day at his local casinos in Canada. He used to treat it as a job. You know, this was his job for a very long time. And that was all before the online world and all that, right? So obviously you have to say that he fits all this criteria and he's been in the pre-online and the post-online era. So that's got to be worth something. So I would say Negreanu is also somebody who fits all of the criteria that I have set. The third person on my list might be a little bit surprising, but again, fits all of the criteria, and that would be Jason Somerville. Yes, I might be slightly biased here. He's one of my favorite streamers. Jason Somerville was the first person that I consistently started watching on streams. I think that, you know, well, I mean, I don't think it. I think it's fact that he was one of the pioneers for live streaming. He basically started that whole movement, and I remember being part of his early streams, his very, very early streams. I remember some of the earliest streams I saw from him was when he traveled to the PCA and he brought along his equipment and he just started streaming from his hotel room at the PCA. Those were some of his relatively early streams. And, you know, that guy has taught more people to play poker than anybody else out there. He has a bracelet. He definitely holds his own in mixed games. His only downside is that, you know, he is post-online play, right? You can't point to that same history that Negreanu had where he was there before online. So, you know, Jason Somerville is kind of quote-unquote new in that way. But he's still young. You know, he's still out there. You know, maybe he's not streaming as much, but he certainly still plays. So plenty of time for more bracelets and things like that. So I think that, you know, Jason Somerville is somebody that, again, fits the criteria. And you have to be able to say, yeah, you know, he could be the best all-around player. And also keep in mind, one of the things that I really liked about Jason Somerville is that he was playing on PokerStars without a HUD. That's probably the hardest way to play online, to not have a HUD when everybody else does. Every other streamer does. But he was out there just on his own, using his own logic and reasoning and experience and things like that. So that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed his stream so much. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of people like his stream, because he wasn't just, you know, clicking buttons based on numbers and his own read of what all the different colors and lines meant on your screen. He was a little bit more of a pure player in that way. So I think that's worth something, and I think that does strengthen his resume for one of the all-time greats. And then the last name on my list is, of course, Phil Ivey. So Phil Ivey is just like D-Negs, where he was also pre-online. You know, he was there, you know, playing out in Atlantic City way before online poker was a thing. Been around for a long time. Obviously has both cash and tournament credentials, has bracelets. He doesn't have a no limit hold'em bracelet though. So if you wanted to make kind of like an anti-bracelet argument, Phil Ivey's interesting because what do you do with him? He doesn't have any hold'em bracelets. Does your all-time, all-around player need to have a hold'em bracelet? Maybe, maybe not. If you think they do, then you just eliminated Phil Ivey, right? If you think that your best all-time player needs to have made a statement win in a large field event, like a $1,000 buy-in WSOP and no limit hold'em event, which has like thousands and thousands of runners, guess what? That's not Phil Ivey. He's never won a bracelet in that type of an event, right? So I still put him on my list. I think that he still meets the criteria. Is he a good ambassador of poker? Maybe, maybe not. You know, like I talked about in part one of this series, you know, not everybody at the top of sports is a nice person. So, you know, do you want to discount that from Phil Ivey? I don't. I think he still meets the criteria. You know, we have to accept that great athletes aren't always great people. But you know, can't deny his accomplishments. So you have to put him on this list. All right, so that's my list of 4. What do you guys think? What does your list look like? Do you agree with my criteria? Do you not? Did I miss somebody who meets the criteria? See, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that I miss somebody who meets this criteria. I thought about this a lot, and I think those are the 4 names that meet the criteria. But let me know if I missed anybody. You can reach me on Twitter at LBPokerCoach, all one word, or go ahead and email me, coach@lbpokercoach.com. Take care. Hey, let's keep the conversation going. You can reach me on all socials at LBPokerCoach, all one word, on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.